Good morning. Um, Thursday. We made it. um, Getting towards the end of the week and the end of the month. Nice today, nicer than it has been for a little bit, which is great. Good morning, Deb. Good to see you. Um, so yeah, uh, I have some things I need to do today outside for sure. You probably do too, right? We've gotten to that point where things are getting overgrown and trying to decide whether you're going to keep watering and fussing with it, or if you're done and you're just going to let it kind of do its own thing. I have a bunch of seeds that I planted this year in an area that was didn't really have anything growing. And it's the first time they actually worked. I've gotten seeds before, just random places, the Lowe's or, wherever they're selling like wildflower seeds. And generally they don't sprout. The birds eat them. Uh, they're just nothing, right? It's just like a waste of money. So I actually ordered some because somebody recommended this company that sold what they specifically do is different blends for different areas. So, I got the Northeast pollinators blend or whatever that have different flowers than, say, something out west or in the South or something like that. Because I thought, well, maybe that will give me um, a better result, right? Maybe I'm planting the wrong wildflower seeds or something. I don't know. And they were, of course, more expensive than regular wildflower seeds. But they really grew. In fact, I put down way too many. I wish I hadn't planted so many in such a small space because they're really compact. And there's tall, but also short. And I'm afraid that the tall is covering the short. So I'm not sure if we'll ever see what the short ones are. But um, you know that's how it is, right? But if you have tried to grow wildflowers or sow wildflowers in a patch in your garden, send me an email and I'll let you know the name of the company. Uh, and I would highly recommend it. They really work, and I don't have flowers yet, but I'm gonna have flowers after everybody else's flowers are gone, right? Because I did this so late. And in Delaware, the weather stays good for such a long time. I mean, I'll you know by the look of these, I mean, they're big, they're getting big, but I don't know that they're going to bloom until uh, you know August, end of August, September, maybe. I don't even know. Uh, so we'll see. Everything else in my garden is similarly late. I'm just starting to get what look like maybe the couple of potatoes or tomatoes rather, and some peppers um, in my container garden. So, you know, better late than never, as they say. So, um, I think this is maybe a good thing to think about and talk about is this idea of maintenance, right? Um, when we talk about that in terms of other things in our life, right? um, so your house, needs a certain amount of maintenance, and everyone, there's a different, there's different levels of that and different types of that. So, you know, there is indoor maintenance and day-to-day maintenance, which means, right, cleaning, keeping things from piling up in the pathways so that you can get around your house and everything. And we all have different comfort levels with that, right? There's some people who are extremely tidy and want everything um, in its place and you know get really anxious when things are not put away. And then other people who, really aren't bothered by that too much. As long as they can get through their house, they're okay. Um, Usually, I think we kind of fall somewhere in between those two extremes. Um, but then there are preventative maintenance, right? And there are things that we must do. Everyone must do, right, in order to keep the house together, right? So, um, things like maybe changing your furnace filter or having the furnace cleaned or I don't know. I'm trying to think of things. Maybe getting your gutters cleaned if they're blocked up. Checking, in the fall to see how things are with the house, so that you don't run into problems over the winter. Um, these are the things we want to do to save ourselves problems down the line, right? And when it comes to our practice, it's the same thing, right? We want to be aware of what's happening with our practice and maybe get ahead of some issues that might come up. If we find that, we are having trouble with certain poses, or um, we can see that we are not able to um, set aside our thoughts, or we're getting really focused on one thing. So this happens a lot, I think, with our practice. Is we start to obsess. I do anyway. I mean, we can get hung up on certain things about our practice. So maybe a certain pose that you really want to achieve, or you start noticing, whether you're breathing or whether you're not breathing. Um, these are, again, like just ways to be distracted. Um, your mind is uh, tricky, right? Um, it is constantly trying to get primacy, right? To get control over what's going on. And when we are doing our practice, we're trying to set aside the function of the mind, and we're trying to inhabit the body. Um, that means letting go of thoughts that arise, not being distracted from what we're doing. Um, and it can be a little difficult, right, to have this happen. Um, I think especially because in this country in particular, we have viewed yoga as an exercise, right? It's simply an exercise. And most of us, I think, if we've done exercise uh, in the past, we know that one of the best ways to kind of get through some of these things is to think about other stuff, right? So while you're on the treadmill or riding your bike or whatever it is that you might do for straight up exercise, or walking, right? Um, or running. A lot of times your mind is somewhere else, right? Maybe you're playing music, maybe you are planning something, or trying to, you know, have some people, people listen to a podcast, or, um, a book, audiobook. You are really trying to take yourself out of the experience, right? You are trying to distract yourself from what you're doing because, let's face it. I mean, exercise is generally pretty boring, right? I mean, it's you're doing the same thing over and over again. Um, Most people, I wouldn't say enjoy the experience that much. So there is good reason for us to try to distract ourselves with something else. Yoga isn't like that, right? We it is not meant to be like that. We don't want to distract ourselves from the yoga experience. We want to be really present in the yoga experience. And that is maybe the hardest part of the practice of all, is staying present, right? Not checking out, not phoning it in, right? And uh, don't get me wrong, right? There are days when that is how your practice might go, right? Maybe you are just going through the motions. I would say, if that's what it takes to keep you in the habit of your practice, so be it. Um, I know people who start out with their yoga practice as a practice, um, more of a physical practice, and then they move into a little more spiritual state of mind. Um, so it's not one or the other, right? If you have days where all you can do is think about what you're going to eat for lunch, or the the the, uh, the the chores you have to do, or you're planning something, you're thinking about your vacation, or a problem you're having, or something. Um, don't despair, right? I mean, we're trying to keep that focus um, in this space and kind of shut out the rest of the world and what's happening. Um, but that doesn't always work. And if it doesn't work for you today or another day, don't worry about it. Understand that it's a practice, that we are working towards that. Some days we will succeed, some days we will not succeed. It does not mean that the time is wasted. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you are a human being um, with flaws and insufficiencies, right? I like to say, I like insufficiencies, right? It's a good word because it says to me that it's insufficiency to me indicates a short term situation, right? It's not inabilities, it's not, um, it's not a weakness or shortcoming or something inherent to you um, personally. It is just insufficiency, right? Right now, you don't have what you need to be there. I don't know why. You don't know why. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep last night. Maybe you are really burdened by some situation in your life. Maybe you don't even know what it is. And you don't have to know what it is, right? We don't need to pick through every every experience and find a why. That's the beauty of just accepting how things are. We know what we want to do, but we aren't going to stress if we don't get there. Right? Because why? Is anybody gonna? Does anybody remember? Right? What is the thing we always talk about? It's the process, the steps we take, the actions we do, not the outcome. So we're trying to do the right steps. I don't know what the outcome might be. If we're coming to our mat and we're moving and we're breathing and we're trying to stay focused, um, those are all the good actions. What's the result? Well, maybe the result is we have a great practice. We feel excellent. We feel very stable and grounded in our space. Um, we are really in tune with our body. We're keeping our focus. We have a great meditation at the end. We're just on top of the world, right? Or we could have, I can't stay focused. I feel bad. Everything feels bad. Why is this leg bothering me? I don't know what I'm doing. This is frustrating me, right? That's another way the practice can go. And as you know, I'm sure, once you start down that spiral, it's hard to come back out. Um, the more you think about it, the worse it gets. I'm thinking of, poor Simone Biles, right? Um, this woman is magnificent, right? She is the epitome of strength and grace and determination, hard work, all of these things. Considered maybe the best in the world at what she does. But the pressure of trying to do that to such a high degree for so long um, is so much, right? So she said, "No, I'm done. I'm not going to do it." Good job. Congrats. I mean, you got to know where you are and what you can do. Um, we are all of us responsible only for ourselves, for our health, well being, our behavior, our actions. If we will not advocate and take care of ourselves, who will? Who will? No one. So knowing your limits, knowing when you've overextended, knowing when you need to pull things back is very important. I think for all of us, the temptation is to just push through and keep going and um, just, you know, no matter what, no matter how we feel, if we don't feel good, if we feel off, if we're in pain, if we're struggling, um, we don't want to stop. We don't want to take a break for a lot of reasons, right? Um, one, because we don't want to appear weak or less able, insufficient, and for some people, it's also a way to avoid, right? If you keep going, you never really have to look at what's going on. You don't have time, right? I can't stop. I'm too busy. Um, there's an issue, but you don't want to find out what it is. You really don't want to deal with it. Let's just keep going, no matter what, right? No matter what happens, no matter how difficult things get or problems that I have. None of these are ideal, right? Ideally, we are not afraid to face the truth, not afraid to make that hard decision. Um, Simone Biles, right? She could have just kept going. Um, that's what everyone wanted. That's what everyone would say was the right thing to do, right? You started this. Why don't you just keep going? These are questions we answer for ourselves, and we don't let anyone else answer them for us. We don't let anyone else influence us to do something that we don't want to do, that we aren't comfortable doing, that we are not ready for. That, I think, is one of the most powerful things about yoga, is when we understand this, when we understand our responsibility and, right, our caretaking role in for ourselves. Um, we understand it's okay to say no. It's okay to decline. Um, you answer to no one but yourself. Um, I know that's not technically true, right? I mean, we have laws and we have rules and all that. But really, the only person you have to live with is yourself, right? The choices you make, the decisions that you make. Obviously, if you're, on this side of legal, there's a wide range of where you could go. Um, just because someone else doesn't think it's sensible or correct does not mean that it isn't for you. Only you know these things for yourself. And don't let other people tell you what you should do. You take care of you. You work the maintenance that you need. That being said, I'm going to go back to this idea of the garden in August. So in August, right, we get sort of August, September, people are kind of sick of the garden, right? They've been working on it all spring. They are, everything looks pretty good. It's kind of doing its own thing. We're in maintenance mode, right? Maybe we water a little bit. Maybe we pull some weeds. I don't know. Try to spook the rabbits out of the garden if they're eating your vegetables. But it's kind of on its own, right? And our practice can be like that as well, right? Once we have established some habits, once we have done a lot of the things that we need to do to understand what we're doing, right? Maybe we understand the asana. Maybe we know our body sort of goes to where it's supposed to go. You are maybe in the August of your practice when you come to that point where things feel fairly steady, and you just need to adjust a little here and there. And maybe you're kind of tired of dealing with it. You're kind of tired of all the learning and all the whatever. So you're just going to coast a little bit. This is not a bad thing. I think many of us get to this point in our practice where we are just doing the shapes and letting it all kind of fall where it will. This is fine, right? This is another way to go. Ideally, when we've done plenty of asana, when we've been working the yamas and niyamas for a while, it does become a habit. It becomes almost second nature. We don't have to think about it all that much. We kind of know what the right decisions are. We always knew what the right decisions were, right? Let's be honest. We just didn't want to decide. We just didn't want to hear it. We didn't want to choose it. So we pretended we didn't. We shut down that inner voice. We talked over it. But once you hear it, it's hard to unhear it. And the more you hear it, the louder it gets. So at some point, it's not so much struggle to do that. We're just listening. We're allowing things to kind of go along their course. This is good. It's like, cruise control, right? Or the self-driving cars. A good thing, right? But you also need to pay attention to where you're going with it. Right? There may be times you need to hit the brakes, or you need to reset the speed limit, or something. I guess not with self-driving cars; they're pretty reliable. But let's say cruise control. Maybe cruise control is a better analogy. So be ready, right, to maybe make some course adjustments or whatever you need to do. But know that it's okay to feel like things are kind of under control, right? You don't have to be on the edge all the time. You don't have to be pushing to the next thing. You can also enjoy just where you are. And that maybe is what August is about, is enjoying all of the work that you put in the spring. And just letting it be for a little bit. Because before you know it, it's going to be fall, and there'll be a whole host of other things to do when that gets here. So maintain your garden. But if your garden is taking care of itself, that's great. You can take a break and put your feet up, read a book, and enjoy the results of your action, of your good action. Yoga is, it doesn't have to be always striving. It can also be just enjoying and relaxing. There's space for both. Okay, so let's move around a little bit. I'm going to sit and breathe. We haven't done that for a little bit. Do a little pranayama. So let's do, we'll do we're not holding the breath, but a longer, slightly longer exhale than inhale. That was a really long way to say a very simple thing. So we've done this before. This like maybe 4 inhale, maybe 6 exhale, or maybe 8 even if you can. We're just slowing down the exhale, trying to really use this area to, you might draw it in a little bit and just expel the air. Emptying the lungs is something that we don't generally do much when we are breathing normally. We usually take pretty shallow breaths, which mean that the exchange in oxygen is not that great. This oxygen down in the lower part of the lungs doesn't move that much, right? There's not as much transfer. So mindfully trying to empty the lungs as much as possible kind of recirculates everything, and it just helps the whole breathing process. Okay, so we're sitting tall. Allow the belly to expand with your breath. And you can just continue like this. This doesn't have to be a really exaggerated breath. It could be if you really want to try to push that breath out, draw that belly in, you can, but you can also be a much more subtle movement. The, the key here is just trying to keep that difference between the inhales and the exhales, knowing that we never really have trouble getting enough breath in there. It's expelling that we forget about, right? And then just moving back to that normal breath. Drop the chin toward the chest. Then lifting up. Keep lifting. Back to center. Breath in, then lowering the head to the right. Back up and moving left. And back up. Drop the chin and let's move slowly, rotating the neck, rotating the head. I guess rotating the neck a little. one direction and then the other. Try to keep the shoulders relaxed. Back up. And then we're just going to extend the legs here. Point and flex. Rotate through the ankles. One way and the other. Arms up overhead. Take a deep breath and then arms down by your side. Inhale, lift. And lower. We're going to put the hands down with the fingertips pointing away from the body. And then just sit really tall. We're pressing the palms down, trying to pull the shoulders back, sit really tall. Arms up overhead, fold forward. Back up, bend that right knee. We're sitting tall here. Shoulders back. And then drop the knee. Right foot is close to the left thigh. Take that deep breath and then hinging from the hips. Folding into the left side. So if we're coming down straight here, we have this left arm right over the left leg. Right? So the body is coming down toward the center. Back up. Switch around. Sitting tall. And then same thing. Lifting here. Initiating that movement at the hip. Back up. Both legs in front. Let's bring them wide here. Sitting tall. Keep the toes pointing up as much as you can. And leaning into this pose. Hands can be on the legs or out in the center if that's your preference. And this is another pose that we can use in kind of a yin fashion, if you like. This, having the hands out in front gives you a little support. So, and that is kind of a key part of most of the yin poses, though, yin poses work from sort of the waist down. So it's usually a more stable position. We're not struggling to hold that position. There is a certain aspect of support in it. And a lot of times with yin, we use blocks and straps and different things to really try to support that pose. But yeah, using your arms, whatever, it's great. But if you wanted to hold this for a long sort of yin, 1 to 5 minutes or so, you could. Hands in front. If you have a couple of blocks, I have a couple of blocks. You could rest your forehead. Or maybe more, right? So the great thing about these blocks is that they are very adjustable. You can go this way, that way, this way. I mean, you can get a dozen. 2 blocks will give you a dozen different heights. So you're sure to find something that will work for you. What we want to remember in this pose is, it's mainly here, right? It's this inner thigh, and especially I find this right around the outer part of the knee that is really stretched by this pose. We definitely want to extend so that we're again moving from the hip with a flat back. But if you do support your head here, obviously, your back's going to round a little bit, and that's okay. Because at that point we're working here for that longer hold. So lots of things to do. Bring the legs together. Let's bring left hand on the right knee, right arm behind. Sit tall for a breath, and then a twist. Back to center. And switch. And we're back here. So bend the knees. Lower down, rock back. However you get there, we're resting on our back. Remember to take a moment or two in these transitions. Give yourself a chance for everything to settle. A lot of times we rush too much to get from one position to another, from one task to another, right? We drop everything and run off to the next thing. Transitions are important. Some of us need more of a transition than others, right? You may know this about yourself. Maybe you're a person that needs some preparation, that needs some time. Right? Let's bring this right ankle on top of the left knee, and then either stay here or draw this thigh in. So I'm a person that does not wake up easily. I would not say a morning person, and it takes me a little time to get going in the morning. That transition between sleep and awake is more difficult for me than maybe some other people. And I know this, so I try to make accommodations for that. It's important, right, to know some things about your natures, to know some things that you need. And then you can act accordingly. There's nothing wrong with having preferences, having things that make things easier for you. And then set that down, switch it around. And breathe. So I find it encouraging, really, that there is no perfect situation. Right? Everybody has struggles. Everybody has issues that they work with, that they work to overcome, to adapt to. Um, so on one hand, it's encouraging, but on the other hand, it's also it leaves you nowhere to hide, right? You can't say, well, this person has it easier than me, blah 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 blah, right? Everybody has a struggle. And the ultimate issue is how well do you deal with that? How do you bear your burdens compared to maybe how someone else does? So that defeats that. Not that we're comparing, we're not. But if you are in a mind to compare and say, well, this person, has it easy. Of course, they're doing this, and I can't do this because this, and this, and this. Well, it may look like that, right? Maybe it does look like things are easy for them, but I bet they aren't. I bet you just are seeing what things look like from the outside. Um, there is nowhere to hide from your responsibility to yourself and your responsibility to take what you have and make the best of it. That is all of our responsibilities, right? To be the best version of ourselves for ourselves and for everyone else around us, right? For the self. Let's bring the knees in, rock a little. The big S, self, right? And then lower down. Come on back and move. And then let's extend the legs, move into Shavasana. Breathe, relax. Feeling peaceful and calm, steady with the breath. In all things, we want to be true to ourselves, to our needs, and our nature. The goal is not to be like everyone else. The goal is not to live your life according to what other people tell you. The goal is to discover for yourself, what is my life going to be? What do I need? Um, what makes my heart sing? Those are the things you want to follow. Because, right, we each of us have talents, we have skills, we have preferences, we have special abilities that we can use or abuse, right? So if you think of someone with a great gift to touch people with their speech, with their knowledge, with their insight, and then you see, so we frequently have leaders, right? political leaders, religious leaders, um, self-help people, all these people who achieve a degree of fame and respect, I guess, for their talents, right? Their ability to move people with their speech or inspire people or whatever it is that they're doing. That is a gift, right? That is a true gift that some people have. Um, and they can use that, right? We all know people in history who have used that to achieve really amazing things. Um, Things that may have come about eventually without their influence, but they certainly moved things along. They were instrumental, right? And then we've also seen people who have taken that same skill, that same gift, and used it to achieve terrible ends, to encourage hatred and killing, um, and just a general feeling of fear and isolation. There's the same gift. It's the same gift. We can use things. Um, we can use tools. The tools we're given, we can use them to achieve and build great things. Or we can turn them on ourselves and cut ourselves or cut others with these tools we've been given. So it's our choice. But it's our responsibility as well, to find the best use, to find um, the best way to bring that gift that we have to light. And if you don't know what your gift is, don't worry. Most people don't, right? Maybe your gift is not so clear. Maybe it's not so apparent. It may be more subtle. Maybe you have the gift of listening. Maybe you have the gift of patience. Maybe you have the gift of kindness. Um, Not all gifts are shiny packages. Some gifts are small and humble in uh, at first glance, but they may be the most important gifts of all. Um, they are the gifts that sustain. Um, they will carry us on through everything. Um, they are perhaps um, less likely to be abused, right? Which is an important thing. Um, I truly believe that many of these figures in history and present times um, who use these gifts in terrible ways probably didn't start out thinking that was what was happening. Um, Sometimes big gifts cause big problems, right? We don't always understand the scope of what we have. Um, we don't understand what damage we can do. So if you feel like you have maybe a simple gift, be grateful. Simple gifts are easy to manage, easier, I should say, to manage. Um, yeah. So while everyone would like to be famous, everyone actually would not like to be famous because there's a cost that comes with the big gifts. Um, they're harder to manage. They get out of control easily, and you can very easily go down in history as a monster instead of a messiah. Um, so be grateful for what you have and what you've been given, and don't necessarily wish for more. Um, I think of that. Uh, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's something I read, right? A Chinese curse is may you live in interesting times, right? That really, ideally, things would be boring and peaceful, right? When things get interesting is when you you get the troubles, right? So I would say, as a yogi, may you live in interesting times as a boat upon the waves. Right? Learn to navigate those interesting times. Regulate your inner landscape. Moving as you feel ready, and making your way up to a seat. We'll have hands together for a breath in and out. Thank you for taking time today for some yoga and for sharing with me here. I hope you have a very good Thursday. Namaste. Okay, let's get that 5-minute meditation, because why not? Why shouldn't we? Now I'm trying to find my app here. Turn the volume up. All these things I have to do. So we're peaceful, sitting, comfortable, maybe in a chair, maybe on the floor. You could be laying down. This is fine. Um, Finding a place to be at peace and restful, but not too restful. We don't want to necessarily fall asleep. If you do fall asleep, not the end of the world, but ideally, we want to be able to stay aware, but also detached in a way, right? Not um, distracted, not thinking about other things, but just holding this kind of peaceful blank space, right? We're holding space. So I love that term, holding space. We talk about that um, a lot of times in, kind of caregiving, a caregiving sense, and or even a relationship sense. Um, that oftentimes what people need is not you to solve their problems or tell them what to do, but for you to hold space for them so they can vent, so they can tell you what their problems are. So maybe they can work through their problems themselves. Um, it's the idea of standing next to someone rather than carrying them, right? You're giving them support and solidarity. Maybe you're bracing them up. Maybe you're holding them up, but you're not carrying them. You're not trying to uh, do things for them or give them the impression that they can't do it for themselves. You are simply holding space. And I think of meditation much as holding space. We're not trying to do anything, we're not trying to change anything or exert our will. We will will our way to nirvana. No, that's not how it works, right? We hold space. We are open and supportive. Um, we are there. We're a blank canvas. What is going to happen? We don't know. We are listening, right? What I've heard people say is prayer is when we talk to God, but meditation is when God talks to us. So we are opening the line. We are listening. We are listening within. to this inner voice. What are we going to hear? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe it will be silent. Maybe we will simply have an impression of something. Maybe nothing. Maybe nothing at all. If you think about it, right? It's like when you make a phone call and sometimes you get voicemail or you get nothing, right? I mean, that's kind of what it's like. You aren't guaranteed to have a response, right? It's not, meditation is not the vending machine. You don't put in a quarter and you get a treat. It is opening up a channel. It is leaving the door open for that inner voice to speak. I think that's one reason why meditation is so hard for many people, because it is not an active, even though you're active, putting yourself in this position, getting you there. It is not an active thing to do. It is you are surrendering, right? You are giving up control of the situation and allowing it to unfold for itself. This, for many people, is the hardest thing to do. To allow a situation to unfold for itself without trying to control it, without trying to influence it. That is something we are not taught how to do. And we should. Because honestly, there are many situations and times in your life when that would be the smartest course of action. You're not going to go wrong giving that a try from time to time. Not in every situation, right? But it's that idea of, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? If you don't have something productive to say, don't say anything at all. You're not going to go wrong by holding your tongue when you're not sure what to say. And meditation is the same thing. Instead of always doing, how about we just wait and see what happens? It's just very alien to our culture and our society in general. So, but let's try it anyway. Maybe let's try it because it's so unusual and it's so different than what we normally do. Yoga is all about that. It's about working through your range of motion, trying to use different body parts that you don't normally use in a way that you don't normally use them. And we do that with everything else too, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. We want to try something different, especially if we are a person who has struggled with any issues, mental health issues, or emotional or spiritual issues. Trying something different than you've always done before can be the key. So it's a lot. It's a lot of talking, and let's do less talking and more meditation, all right? But I do think sometimes it's good to talk about this stuff, because we just move into it. We don't really do it. And I think sometimes people are like, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? Nothing. Don't do anything. That's the point. You're just waiting to see what happens. Let everything else do its thing. Okay. 5 minutes. Breathing comfortably, relaxed. Okay, we're back. Um, so enjoy your Thursday. Be back tomorrow for Friday. And I'll see you then.